Everybody says, how did you get to Rwanda? It was almost 10 years ago to the day. We were actually moving our daughter into her sophomore year in her dorm at Babson College up in Wellesley, Massachusetts. And as we were unloading her suitcases, we noticed just off to the side there was this bronze bust. The statue was on a column. And I looked at the plate, the inscription underneath the bust, and it says this bust is erected to, it's like Roger Babson College's founder, was like great, I forget how many greats, uncle, who was martyred for the faith for reading from the book of Deuteronomy out loud in the public square. And I called Ernie over and I said, Ernie, did you know about this statue? Did you know that this is what Babson was really founded on? Did you know that this was in Roger Babson, the president of Babson's spirit? No one at that college talks about faith. They only talk about how they're the #1 school for entrepreneurship globally, and have been for almost 30 years. So we filed it. We both filed it. Fast forward, the next semester, the dean of students asked Ernie and I if we would be willing to make a long-term financial commitment to the school. We said, well, there's this little thing that your school is founded on that no one's talking about. So we'll tell you what. If you can figure out how to intersect women and leadership, I was working on Wall Street at the time with very few women, and I was discouraged by that. So if you can intersect women and leadership and faith, figure out what Babson might have going on with that intersection, we'll talk. He's like, well, no one's ever really asked us about that before. We're like, well, but that's what it's going to take. And it turned out that they were getting ready to send 12 women over to Rwanda to teach entrepreneurship to a Catholic high school there. And he said, and they're going to live in a convent for a month. Does that count? And I'm like, well, that's probably as good as it's going to get, so sure, we'll support that. So we underwrote the expense of 12 women from Babson, 10 students, 2 MBA chaperones, going to Rwanda to live there for a month to teach entrepreneurship. I had no heart for Africa. You meet these people who's like, oh, Africa is on my bucket list. That wasn't me. I had no interest in Africa, no heart for it. It was just like, okay, Rwanda, it's fine. Didn't really know about Rwanda other than Hotel Rwanda, like most of us knew about. So a couple weeks later, he called me and said, well, would you like to go and see what these women are going to do there? I said, I work. I can't go for a month, but I could go for a week. Well, it's 2 full days to get there and 2 full days to get back. So it really required more like a 10-day commitment. So I did. And that just changed my life. That was June 2012. I thought it would be my only trip in my life to Rwanda, so I wanted to see everything that Rwanda had to offer. So, speaking with people, it's like, oh, you have to see the gorillas and the monkeys and the orphanages and the memorials, and, So, there, at the time, Babson had a Rwanda Center. They had the Babson Rwanda Entrepreneurship Center headquartered in Kigali, the capital, staffed by 2 full-time guys who were both graduates from Babson. And one of those guys, his name was Ben, was the boss of me. So in planning for the trip, I'd email Ben, hey Ben, how do I see the monkeys? How do I see, how do I see this, how do I see that? So he planned this whole itinerary for me for the 7 days I was in country. On the day that I was going to, after I shook off the jet lag on, I think it was morning number 2 or 3, he said, okay, just show up show up in the driveway of your hotel, and there'll be a guy there to, drive you around. So I'm got my coffee, my Rwanda oatmeal, and I go down and Ben's there. I'm like, okay, we'll hop in. Like, so excited. We were just going to travel the entire country. And he throws my bags in the car and he goes, well, I'm not going with you. I said, what? He said, no, I have work to do here in Kigali. I'll see you in 5 days out in the country at the convent. So my driver's name was Peter Taxi. Obviously, Taxi was a made-up name, but that's what he went by. He spoke no English. I spoke no Kenya Rwanda. And for 4.5 days, Peter Taxi drove me around the countryside of Rwanda so that I could see everything that I wanted to see. It was the most surreal, scary experience I've ever had. And that's a whole nother sermon. I mean, that's a whole nother sermon story. But let me just tell you that that memory of being by myself as a white, middle-aged, blonde woman in Rwanda, obviously an American that they know, it was just a crazy time. But during that 4 or 5 days he drove me around, I just fell in love with Rwanda. I fell in love with Rwanda, and I fell in love with the people in Rwanda. Rwanda ranks as one of the 25 poorest countries in the world. And I saw abject poverty there that I had never seen before. And I had gone on mission trips to Costa Rica, and I'd been to Panama, the outskirts of Panama, 4 hours from civilization. But I'd never seen anything like this. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. And once the people there grab you by the heart, they're never going to let you go. So my life was really genuinely altered on that trip. And most of you know about the Rwandan genocide, which was about 20, I should know this, I was there for the anniversary. In Rwanda, except for the people who live in the city, everybody else is pretty much a subsistence farmer. So most people in the rural countryside of Rwanda have their own plot of land, and they grow crops on that land to entirely feed themselves. And when the genocide happened, and the Hutus came in and burned all the land and all the crops, basically everybody in rural Rwanda lost their way to provide food for their families. And so what happened was Sister Augusta, who was really kind of the head nun at this convent, was, after the genocide ended, just answering her door, the door at the gate of this huge, armed fence that circled the convent, just turning down, villager after villager who was coming to her to just beg for food. They figured that the sisters who had a garden, who hid in their own chapel for 30 days during the genocide, survived by drinking water that fell off the roof. Bullet holes are still in their windows. They keep them there as a reminder. They came to them looking for food, and they didn't have any to offer. So she had a vision to build a bakery. She figured if I could build a bakery, at least I could give people one piece of bread a day. So when they came to knock, I could feed them. And bread there is different than bread here. Bread there is very fortified, and it's very wholesome, and it's thick. And so many people truly just do live on one of these pieces of bread a year. So when I was getting ready to leave this little teeny village, it's called Save, spelled like save. It is so small it doesn't show up on Google Earth. So when I was there by myself, away from my husband, my kids, in Save, and my husband tried to just see where I might be, he was just petrified that it didn't even show up on Google Earth, but that's how remote this village is. I was pretty petrified for a few times too. But Sister Augusta came to me on that last morning that I was there, and she said, I have this vision for a bakery, and she laid it out. She said, all I need is funding. I'm just going to ask you, as an American businesswoman, who might you know who could be interested in this project? So I just filed it, and just had this overwhelming sense that what would I do? What would I do if my kids didn't have food, didn't have enough food to live on? What would I do? Of course we had to run this bakery. It was not an option. So by this time, I was just in love. I was just in love with them. There's no other way to describe it. I went home, and I said to my husband, It would not go to Rwanda. If we ever have any money laying around that we don't need at all, I mean, not even don't need, but that we could live without, we have to send it to Rwanda to build a bakery. And because he was so sweet, he was just so special, and Debbie is so bright, he said he'll do that. So we got a bonus that year, and we sent it to Rwanda. That was in 2012, and I think, what if we had told the dean at Batson College that we would just donate to anything? What if we weren't intentional about our past? I would never be in Rwanda. And what if Sister had not called me into her office on my last morning and said, we need to fund a bakery. Could you think of someone? What if she hadn't asked? The lesson for me here is just ask and speak with boldness. And if you are moved to do something that you know comes from a step of faith, do it in boldness. We sent that check to Rwanda, and that was the end of 2012. And in 2014, Ernie and I went to Rwanda to check on this now built bakery. And they were going to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. And we get there, and we're anonymous donors. Our names, no one knows that we I mean, people know that we partner now with the bakery, but they don't. This village, I mean, it's big, so no one would even be able to find it. So we get there, and we're walking to the ribbon cutting ceremony, and I said to Ernie, do you smell bread? I don't smell bread. Do you smell anything? He goes, no, I don't smell any bread. So we go into this building, which was large, and it was just an unused building, and they just retrofitted it to become this huge commercial bakery. So our contribution really was mostly for the big industrial machines that you would put in any bakery. And we got in there, and I mean, the machines were beautiful. I mean, the commercial ovens and the huge mixer bowls. I mean, it was just this, I mean, it looked like it was a wholesale bakery that you could see in Brooklyn. It was just fabulous, outfitted to perfection. And they had this little loaf of bread. And we said, where did you make this? And they said, oh, we baked it in our kitchen over there at the convent. We said, well, are you baking this bread here? We're like, where's the aroma? Well, when we went to go plug in all the commercial equipment, we realized we don't have enough power in the village to power these machines up. We said, what's that going to cost? So that was another, finding an electrician from the city who's going to go out to this teeny little village and dig new lines and figure out how to power up the village. And they eventually got it powered up. That bakery now produces just under 2 million pieces of bread a year. And so it's just the coolest story. They feed about 40,000 to 50,000 people a week. Their village, all the surrounding villages, schools. It's just really pretty cool. We weren't able to go in 2016. Our goal was to go every other year. In 2016, our first grandbabies were due, so we weren't able to go. But we went back in 2018. And this time, we wanted to see how the bakery was doing. And they said we were going to go do a site visit. We said, okay, we're ready to do another bakery. That would be really fun. And we'd like to do this again. So they said, okay, we have a site visit. They had talked about building a bakery way north of the valley of the city, where there's a new med center and a new hospital. So we said, okay, so, they told us the night before, okay, tomorrow we're going to go do the site visit. So Ernie and I put on our safari clothes, because it was going to be this long drive through the mountains, way up. And we said, okay, we're ready to go. And they go, well, we're just going 5 minutes away. And we were in Kigali, the capital. We were in the old part of Kigali. And we said, no, we're gonna go to the north of the country, right? And they said, no, we're just gonna go down here. So Rwanda is a land grant country. So when they were colonized by the Dutch and the Germans and the French, and they were given land. And they had 99 years to use these plots of land, use it or lose it. So they had a plot of land at the convent that was just 5 minutes down the road, a 9-acre plot of land that if they didn't use it, they would lose it. And Rwanda has grown so much that in that time, that plot of land has become really, really, really valuable. So we basically did a site visit to see a plot of land in Kigali. And Ernie and I were so let down. We were like, no, this just doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like what we signed up for. We want to feed the rural poor. People in Kigali have food. There are bakeries in Kigali. And Sister said, no, but there's children. There's so many schools here. There's orphanages. There's orphans left over from the genocide, even though they're older now. The cycle of poverty is just, it just keeps going. And so we kind of reluctantly said, okay. So I'm going to finish that story in a second, but that was the same week of Mother's Day. And I told Ernie during that trip, I said, you know, I don't know where this is coming from or where this is going, but I have this overwhelming sense that I'm supposed to do something with the fabrics here. I said, you know, I'm an artist, and so I love color and pattern, and I said, they're just too yummy. I have to do something with them. So he said, okay. So I said, are you okay if I just go to market and just like buy some fabric and take it home? And he said, you don't know what you're going to do with this? I said, no, I just kind of want the fabric, and it's going to come to me. So he said, okay. So Mother's Day, the night before Mother's Day, Ernie and I were sitting in our convent room talking, and we were talking about the flour sacks that they use to buy the commercial flour. And there are these, you'll see them over there, they're these huge sacks, 40 pounds each. And they go through 40 bags a day, the bakery, of these sacks. And I said, what do you do with these sacks when you're done with them? And they said, we just throw them away. Or they recycle them, they put them in the ground, like, you know, in their gardens and stuff, because they're biodegradable. So I'm like filing that. So I think before I said, Ernie, we got to do something with those sacks, and we got to do something with these fabrics. And he's like, you know what? I said, no, but it's going to come. It's going to come. Early morning, Sunday morning, we're up at 3 a.m. We get this knock on the door. Sister pokes her head in the door. Ernie had asked her the night before, how many pieces of bread do you make from every sack? How many people are fed from each sack? She knocks on her door Mother's Day morning, she said 700. This has never happened before. It's never happened since, and it may never happen again. Ernie and I, we just sobbed. We said, that's what we're going to do. We're going to take these leftover flour sacks and we're going to line them with gorgeous African fabric. And we're going to turn them into tote bags and we're going to sell them. And when you buy a tote bag, you know that you just fed 700 people in rural Rwanda. Those tote bags are over there. So that was our first vision for what turned out to be flourFLOWER. You know, when God downloads a plan, in His grace, thankfully, He doesn't download all of it. He just downloads enough to get you excited. Because if He downloaded the whole plan, it would be overwhelming. And the only part of the plan that He had downloaded to that point was that we needed to be involved in building bakeries in rural Rwanda, and that we needed to take the recycled flour bags, line them with fabric, put leather handles on them, and sell them to raise money to buy more flour bags and hire more people and build more bakeries and, you know, keep this going. And then I should use these fabrics to make fabricated bags. When we were at the site visit to this bakery in downtown Old Kigali, and it's not like the new Kigali is like Paris, I mean, like African style, but like, you know, down a lot. But I mean, you know, third world country, but like, you know, beautiful glass buildings, steel, shine. Old Kigali, which is 15 minutes away, is very run down. You still see lots of poverty, and that's where this bakery is. So we told sister, okay, you know, if you really, we really trust you, if you really think this is our next bakery, she go, let's do it. So we hired an architect, we hired a builder, and she kept, you know, getting back to us saying, we have a problem. In Kigali now, the building code is that if you build a new building, it has to be 2 stories high. You can only build up, you can't build out. And she said it costs about twice as much to build a 2-story building than it does to build a 1-story building. We said, well, you can wait till we save more money to send you. And she said, we can't wait. We're on this 99-year land grant. It's about to expire. We have this deadline where we have to build this bakery like now. And we said, well, we can't pull a rabbit out of a hat. We only have so much cash on hand, so we didn't know what we were in a complete standstill. She had a dream one night to convert a cow shed into the bakery. And when I tell you it was a cow shed, I wish I had a PowerPoint photo to show you. But just think of what's the word I'm thinking, like the metal that goes like that. Corrugated metal. Think of like corrugated metal that was really rusty with like 4 posts on the end and about to fall down. So apparently there was a loophole that said if you take an existing structure and renovate it, that's different than building new. So God love her, she took this cow shed, she got it approved to turn it into a bakery. And they just kept adding on and adding on, and that was legal. But they had to start with this cow shed. That cow shed turned bakery now produces even more bread than the bakery in the country, and they make about 50,000 pieces of bread every week. It's just pretty incredible. So a couple of things that we learned in this process, and maybe this will kind of help explain why we do the things that we do. One of the things that we do is we only buy local and we only buy small batch. So even though, for example, I could probably buy fabric somewhere else cheaper, I don't, because there's a female entrepreneur who feeds her whole family by selling fabric in a stall in an open air market that smells like cows in the middle of Kigali and downtown. I mean, it's stinky, it's hot. If you've seen, what's that, the Slumdog Millionaire, it's kind of like that. But there are women there who go there every single day and they sell fabric, and that's who we buy from. So we only buy from them and we only buy small batch. Same with the leather. These bags turn out to be little stinkers. They're very hard to sew on because they're plasticized canvas. So you need the highest level of commercial sewing machine to sew on them. Don't even get me started on how hard it was to find a commercial sewing machine in Rwanda, B, a sewer who knew how to use one skillfully, and C, leather from Rwanda from old cows versus buying leather from China, which I just absolutely was not going to do. So we sell the bags for $100, and every penny is hard earned. We hire women in the city who have commercial machines, and one of your dear members here donated the money for us to buy a commercial machine for use in rural Rwanda. And the sisters are ecstatic because it means now that we can train women in the rural countryside to do what the women in the city are doing too. The other thing that we do that we're very deliberate about is we opened up a work/training center for women in the countryside to teach them marketable skills so that they would have a skill that when we weren't there, they could use on their own and generate their own income. And I was actually, most of these downloads that come to me in a church or a convent or I'm probably going to get a download here in this fabulous space. But I was at St. Bart's when we lived in New York City. We went to St. Bart's, And I bumped into a friend of mine, and I told her that we were starting this social enterprise making bags out of fabric and selling flour sacks. And then the pom-pom bags, which are also just highly skilled. And I looked at her and I thought, you know what? I can see her carrying flour tote. She doesn't look like she would do that. And she's definitely not going to buy a pom-pom bag. Too preppy for her. And I don't know. She gave up. And I had this down like, oh, she'd buy a bracelet. Yeah, I never made a bracelet. I wouldn't know a bead if it jumped. I mean, I never knew a bead. I didn't know how to string a bead. I didn't know a bracelet. But I just had this thought, she'd buy a bracelet for me. She might not buy that, but she'd buy a bracelet. So thus began the journey of making bracelets. And what we do in the work center is we work with artist clay, because I got the idea that if we just taught the women how to string beads on a bracelet, I mean, I could literally teach you all how to do that in 5 minutes flat. It doesn't add to their steady workload. I mean, it doesn't, what would that do for them? I mean, it would not much. So I was trying to think of what we could design by way of bracelets that would be super time intensive, so that they would get billable hours, if you would, and steady work. So that's when the idea to make hand-rolled beaded bracelets out of artist clay came to me. And now we make them in every color combination. And now I was telling Debbie, now we also get these wonderful large orders from nonprofits to make them for their donors and for their board of directors. And so the beaded bracelets just keep these women working. So we have a work center, both in the countryside and in the city. And the other thing I wanted to just emphasize is that whenever you start a venture, and this is obvious probably to us, but it's worth repeating, there's so much potential corruption, especially when you're working in a place like Africa. So having full faith and trust in your ground partners, it's just like one of the most monumental decisions that you can make. And we have that in the sisters. So we partnered with the Banapakir sisters. They're a Jesuit order. They are the oldest serving order of sisters in all of Rwanda. And she's coming in October, and maybe I'll have a little gathering at our house in Sherman, and you all can get to meet her. So, you know, I would just say, for me, first of all, never go there thinking I'm going to teach them anything. I don't teach them anything. They teach me. I really, you know, first when we started home, you know, former financial advisor, I'm going to bring like all this business knowledge to Rwanda. Forget it. I don't bring anything to them. You know, when I worked as a financial advisor, I only work with really wealthy people. And my job was to make wealthy people wealthier. I mean, that's what I did for a living. And wealthy people are insulated from the poor. I mean, I am wealthy. I don't have, prior to this, I didn't have people living in abject poverty in my home for dinner. I didn't hang out with them. I didn't break bread with them. I didn't know any poor people. We live in Fairfield County, Connecticut. I just didn't, I mean, yes, we might work at a soup kitchen, we might go to work at the food pantry, but I personally, Carolina, every minute I had that was outside of my job, I spent with my kids and my husband and my friends. I didn't go out with opportunities to serve the poor. This. I just threw down my identity just totally, because I really felt hard for the poor. And now, my soul, God, and life is to work with the real poor. And you little insulated, wealthy world with my wealthy clients, my wealthy friends. What I've learned through this is that if you have wealth, if you have money, that the ultimate use of it is to what I call be thunder in the desert. To be in a place where it's truly a desert land. You can go and you can make a difference. We don't need to understand. We just need to obey. We don't need to know the entire plan. We just need to work hard in obedience and follow through when we get promptings of the Holy Spirit. You know, you won't find your unique destiny by seeking it. It doesn't work that way. What I've learned is that you find it by looking for God. And then your destiny finds you. So the ultimate goal is to just become more like Christ. And as a Christ follower, you are, whether you know it or not, a priest or a priestess in your own right. And I guess that makes me a priestess entrepreneur, because I am an entrepreneur. But I really view most of my job as really working with poor women in Africa, but I also view part of my job as speaking with boldness about the ways in which God is working all around us. I've really acquired boldness through this journey. I was never meek. It's not in my DNA. But I was more bashful about talking about the ways in which God is working through all of this. And I just really want to thank you for the opportunity to share how God is working in rural London. He's really working, and thank you for your gift. Your gift has allowed me to buy the materials that we use in our work centers. And I still have a lot of it left. I'm super frugal, and you know, I use it on artist materials that I take for London with me in suitcases, and that's going to go very, very far. So thank you for multiplying that. Thank you for multiplying the work. If any of you ever want to go to Rwanda with me, the invitation is always open. Always, always, always open.